We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email john@nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Hush now, city kids, gather round for urban myths. Hush now, city kids. When it came to me after so long, I didn't have no choices in the streets where I was from. When I think about the pain, I didn't have no choices, I took what I had sworn. Hush now, city kids, gather round for urban myths. Hush now, city kids.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Geordies here, Geordies there with George, Kevin, Mitch, Al-Walid and Stu joining me tonight. Good evening, chaps.
Good evening, everybody.
And first of all, we'll just send our best wishes to Steve Harper. Steve had, I heard this on the WhatsApp group that we've got a little bit earlier than most people out there that Stephen had a brain hemorrhage. And I've got to be honest, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, especially after the circumstances that we lost Pav in a few years back. But I did text Steve and got a message back within an hour, it has to be said, to say that he was okay and not to worry, but it had been a big shock for him and his family. The news is now, of course, broke across the northeast, and I can see in the chat already people sending on the very best to Steve. But the main thing is he's okay, he's compos mentis, and he is on the road to recovery. So great news. Steve Harper is certainly one of our own, and everybody at NUFC Matters sends their best wishes. And we send our commiserations, George, to you and your family. Uncle Jim has passed away, and we want to dedicate tonight's show to Uncle Jim, another one of the black and white army who's joined the army in the sky. George, tell us a bit about Uncle Jim.
Uncle Jim. Well, he was a fan of this. He looked once I got involved in this, he used to watch every show. Everybody thinks that it was Marjorie and George and then Jim, but it wasn't. It was George and Jim and then Marjorie. He came to our school from our deadly enemies in Wallsend, the Western school, and he couldn't get a game for the Western. Stevenson that I played for, Alec Tate, the Newcastle centre forward, was running 2 teams. And I was captain of the second team, even though I was one of the youngest ones in the lot. And I persuaded Alec that Jim had looked like he could do something. And we won a cup. Well, he and I were thick as thieves after that, It was wonderful. And it was ages after that I had any romantic leanings with Marjorie. And when I did, for the first couple of months, he used to say to me, "Yeah, bloody crackers, you." I says, "What for?" He says, "She'll run you bloody ragged." And she did for 60 odd years, which I'll never forget, and presented me with the idol in my eye down in the left-hand corner there. So, but he was great. He worked for the council. He worked in housing. He worked on the rents. Anybody in difficulty in North Tyneside when Jim was on the rents, just had to go and look for Jim, and he'd sort something out for them. He was amazing, really a nice guy, and great member of society. You and I are involved in, Steve, as well. But yeah, I lost a brother. I didn't just lose a brother-in-law. I lost a brother, and I know how much he loved that fella down there as well. So thanks for that, Steve. If he was here now, he'd be cheering, knowing that he's getting a mention on here, because he was a good fan. As soon as I got involved, he started to watch it. So
bless him.
thanks,
Well,
Steve. That's been very,
thoughts for
very
you and the
nice.
family,
Very nice.
and we are dedicating tonight's episode to Jim. And if you've got a question for George, don't forget, ask George as part of Geordies here. Geordies there, so get your questions in, and we will ask George roughly halfway through the show. A few topics of conversation coming in, and obviously with it being an international break, sometimes we'll have a break from the football, but on this show, we've always got something to talk about. The club are holding a public consultation regarding the fan zone on September the 11th. Now, this is a bit strange because you would think that the fan zone would have been given the go-ahead and things would have gone straight through. Why would they be having a public consultation, George? Is it people objecting? Do you think?
Well, it sounds like somebody is. That's what it gets to me. It sounds like somebody wants something different, or doesn't even want it at all. Frankly, I just think all of these are positive things. Things for the fans have got to be viewed, in my view, in a positive light. And if they can make something that the fans can get involved in, I mean, I always go to the food bank and help Steve when I go to a match. Well, if they're going to have the fan zone up in the same area, well, I'll go in. I'll probably go in with Steve Hasty. But it sounds, you hit it the nail on the head. Sounds like somebody doesn't want a fan zone to me. But that's life. Everybody's got to have their say. But they can't do it quick enough for me. All these new developments, all these things that involve fans in our club, in their club, have got to be seen as very positive. At least I think so. And people are saying, well, of course, it'll take trade from here. And no, it doesn't. The diehards will still go to the bodega or wherever they go to. They won't be bothered about fan zones. I just look at how I go to the rugby league matches when it's Magic Weekend. I always like that weekend. And what they do for the fans is fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Far better than anything we do as football. So if we can get something like that, let's have it. And if they want to consult, well, I've got an opinion and everybody else is entitled to an opinion. But it is strange that how many months since it was announced it was going to happen?
It's got to be a couple of months. I mean, it's got to be a couple of months. Yeah.
So for it now to become a consultation suggests that somebody has decided to object, and that's okay. They're entitled to their opinion.
Kevin, I think maybe it's maybe George has hit the nail on the head as well, in the sense that there's a lot of bars and restaurants in town, and I think the objection, without seeing any paperwork, this is speculation on my behalf, maybe to the fact that this venue is not just going to be open on match days, but probably going to be open throughout the year. So if it was only open on a match day, it's not going to impede on those around them. But if it's going to be open, however long, Monday to Friday or Monday to Monday, maybe that's what people are objecting against. As I say, I'm somebody's posted this in the chat tonight, so I'm literally, I'm going along really on an assumption there, but that could be it, Kevin, I guess.
Maybe, or they don't like the competition that those other vendors are going to be within that fan zone, and again, just like within the football realm, they don't like competition nearby. I mean, if it was me, I would go and visit it Monday throughout the week for, like, if you have working in the city, go for a bit of lunch or whatever, or tea at the end of the day, and then do the same thing at the match. But you might get different vendors, you might get different people within that. But again, I think it's just possibly with this meeting we could say lip service to the club and saying this is how it's going to go and this is what we want, and not actually, yes, it's an open forum, yes, it's going to be pushed back because obviously everybody's got an opinion, like you said, but I think there's just the competition element in a business restaurateur type scenario, which I think will be a problem for the club to get through. So again, I'm really read into it too much, but that's how I would look at it and see it.
Yeah, Mitch, it does sound like someone's objecting because of that. Maybe, and obviously, if it's going to a public consultation, you would imagine there's a few more people who've gone, gone against it. Mags Gaz says the event will take place between 4 and 7, with members of the public able to book a 20-minute slot to view the plans, provide feedback both verbally and through feedback forms. The consultation process is a hugely important step in the planning process. Follows a recent season ticket holder survey commissioned by the club. We would really appreciate your feedback. So maybe it's just part of the process according to that, but it does seem a little bit strange.
There's either, oh, actually, this isn't an either or, it could be multiple things. It sounds like they certainly have received some objections, like you say. It may be that they've received feedback that people aren't necessarily happy with the idea of it being a stack type setup.
Yeah.
And even though it was announced as a temporary thing, sometimes these temporary things have a habit of becoming permanent things. So for me, are they actually trying to get a grasp of what fans would like in terms of the setup of the fan zone? Do they want more than a stack type of thing, or do they want less, or do they want something totally different? It's strange for it to come out this way. And everything else they've done, they've sort of gone, damn the torpedoes, we're going to do it.
Mm.
And so for them to be not pumping the brakes, but stopping to take a consultation, it makes me wonder what the driver behind that is. Is it objections, or is it they feel that they've read the room wrong about what the fans would like the setup to be?
Al-Walid, a fan zone, something that you would like to see if you visited St James's Park again? Would you go to it? George has said he would.
Yes, of course. And of course, if it's here in Saudi, also I would go.
And that's it.
Yes, because some fans that if they didn't have a ticket, or maybe they were busy, or they've been he's not like care too much watching games in the stadium. So the fan zone, it's like social experiment, and I think it's something very good, and I hope they finish with this quickly. I don't know why they are taking much time to do that.
Yeah, somebody's objected to it though, so that you would imagine that the consulting
someone like who, yani? Someone from where?
Well, you could imagine that, say, you know, if somebody's not happy, it could be business owners. They might have complained to their local politician, who would have then put a letter into council, and that maybe is why they're going for a consultation. It could be and this is all speculation on my behalf. Go on, George.
Well, the planning regulations as well. If it's a consultation, there's been an objection, and I think in the planning regulations they've got to do it for within 30 days. Okay. So if it's a proper objection, it's not just any old consultation. It's actually a legal consultation to get the process going. So I think the club's probably covering themselves by the sound of it to me.
Yeah.
Maybe Sunderland banner.
Possibly. Very possibly.
Could be, aye. Yeah. Is there any Mackhams who are councillors in the local area, or any business owners? There may well be. Okay, Stu, it's an interesting one though. It's you know, usually things are done, but they seem to have been done, you know, quite well planned, well organised, and well executed. But this one just seems that maybe it's hit a bit of a stumbling block.
Is the stack not owned by a Mackham?
I don't know.
Yes.
I thought it was, so I don't think the Mackhams will be objecting if they're going to make money from it. But to me, the skeptic in me thinks, is this just a box ticket exercise? Or perhaps public support is actually needed if there has been objections. And by saying this are the plans, is what we want to do, of course, you'll get many people who want to go and visit it. And I'm sure, or I would expect that the plans to be really, really, really good. And that would then, you know, only need 10 people to see it to tell another 5 who will tell another 2. You know what I mean? It's good news spreads just as well as bad news does. So if the plans are done correctly and it's a goer, you can understand business owners objecting, but that doesn't mean they'll get it stopped. But for me, And I don't know why I feel this way, but it's a bit like when I'm at work and the big bosses come over from Dubai and we're going to build a new project and they say, right, your input's invaluable, like to me and my team. And there's no such thing as a bad answer. What would you like? We're building something on the beachfront. So I'll say, right, it would be great if every single apartment faced the beach and the bedrooms are at the back, because that way we can sell everything as a beachside. Well, we can't do that because of this. Okay, well, maybe we could. No, we can't do it. And then they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. So it might just be involving people to say, look, we have involved you in something, but we're going to go ahead anyway. And I can't see the council rejecting this over something like this. Yes, small businesses might be affected, but they might also benefit from it because you'll get more people traveling into the city centre, and once they leave the stack, they will go to other places. And
well,
go on, George.
Well, the big word's footfall, isn't it?
Yeah,
exactly. If there's more people coming in, those other businesses will get more footfall as well. I think this is the club protecting themselves against the local authority, making sure that they've had a consultation for the planning process.
Yeah, it's something that me and Mitch have talked about regularly. Not about the stack, but about the changes within the club. And everyone's ecstatic with the ownership and the direction that we're heading in. And all the decisions are getting made. Everyone's happy until a decision affects them. And then it becomes a problem. You know, whether that's with tickets or signings or memberships, if you get affected directly, it becomes an issue. Apart from that, you see someone else complaining about something, you think, oh, you're just moaning, you're never happy at all, blah, blah, blah. You know, you don't deserve to support this club. But for me, if they're getting fans to go and look at the plans, that doesn't mean they'll change the plans. It might just be a showcase and look, this is what we've got. This is what we intend to do. This is the next step of our evolution. So it's not a bad thing to do it, but I just hope that the fans do get more of a say than what I expect them to get. And that's from personal experience of being here in the Middle East, liaised with the club on certain issues.
Okay, I've got to ask you a question, Stu. Elliot Anderson, withdrawn from the Scottish squad. Is he hedging his bets now and going to come to England?
No, I've said no, but I don't mean it. I hope maybe he's told he's going to start the next game, but he wants to keep himself proper fit. Yeah, maybe. Okay. I am going to ask you this one first. So Tom Dixon mentions Mark Gillespie, Emil Kraft, Javier Manquillo, Matt Ritchie, not included in the Newcastle Champions League squad. Any of those a surprise to you, really? No, none at all. But remember, you've still got the under 21s, like that Elliot Anderson, as you said, and Miley, etc. And they've got these that can come in and buffer the squad up anyway. But I know we've mentioned on previous shows that if we're going to be as bad as everyone predicts, well, you're going to have 6 games. How many players do you need for that? So they've got 23, plus they'll have another 4 or 5 that they can bring through that are capable of starting. You know, you can bring another 50 through if you want, but if they're not capable, it makes no difference. But had these people that are on the screen there been included, when I say the people on the screen, I don't mean George, Kev, Mitch, and Al Walid. I mean Gillespie, Kraft, Manquillo, and Ritchie. Then there would have been complaints about that as well. You know, it's the Champions League is the elite competition for European football, if not world club football. And do those players deserve to be in it? Out of them, I would say possibly only Kraft, but he's injured. So what's the point in picking someone who's injured? You can change the squad again if we get through the last 16 for next year. So I think it was horses for courses and not surprised in the slightest.
Okay. What about you, Al Walid? Any of those players you would have liked to have seen play in the Champions League?
Well, Steve, actually, they didn't play in the Premier League, so how they will play in Champions League? For me, I like Javier Manquillo. I think he's great, but I don't know what's the issue really. And Matt Ritchie, he's like third option in some few games in the season, so I'm not really surprised.
Mitch?
Yeah, Leeds nailed it and won. They're not playing in the Premier League, so why should we get our knickers in a twist about them not being in the Champions League squad, and bearing in mind we've got this A squad and B squad, and if you look at a lot of the signings we've made, they drop straight into the B squad by their age, and so I think we're well covered. I don't think it's a problem, and it's not a surprise really to see those names omitted, and also shows what their remit is going to be for the rest of the season in terms of other competitions, and in the case of Richie and Gillespie, what they bring into the dressing room.
Yeah, Kev.
Just basically agree with all the lads on the bottom of the screen, but Stu mentioned it's an elite tournament, and those are not elite footballers, in my opinion. They're there for, like Mitch said, a reason. For we're competing for tournaments across the year. League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Champions League. So they have their surplus of requirements in certain areas where Eddie Howe needs them. So, and again, agree with you. We can't have, if you bring 50 players in, well, are they all going to start? You know, and completely agree. You know what I mean? So he has to make choices. He has to the sentimentality of it is, well, you've got to unfortunately not be able to be involved in the Champions League squad. Sorry, great servant of the club, done well for us, where blah blah blah, but you're not going to be involved in the Champions League. Yes, there could be around the dressing room in some capacity within those home games potentially, but I don't see them going away. Like you can change, like Stu said, you can go and change your squad halfway through if you have a serious injury to set other players. So there's a lot of movement within that. So I'm not too worried about it, and we'll just have to move on what we've got. And yeah, they can play in a Carabao Cup game in Burton or somewhere like that when we beat Man City.
Okay, George, I think it's a full house. You agree with the lads, don't you?
Absolutely. The lads have used the word elite. If they can't make the Premier League, they're not going to be Champions League. But, and the big but is, as Kevin just said, on a cold Wednesday night when you've got a need for a fill-in to go to Burton Albion or wherever, even one of the bigger clubs, Matt Ritchie will do a job. Manquino would do a job. Mark Gillespie would do a job. And you need those kind of players around for the other games, for the peripheral games, if you want to call them that. But we don't need them for the Champions League.
Okay, I'm going to go to the ad break now. But don't forget, we've got Ask George. We've got 2 or 3 questions there for him, so I'll give you time to get a couple more in. But we will go to the ad break first. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com or telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces handmade in Cumbria. You can order them from their website, mrvickys.co.uk, or by telephoning 01768 210 102. A big thanks also to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. They're an agile and dedicated workwear provider. Welcome back as well to United Travel. They are a UK coaches firm, and they are based in the Northeast. They've got 2024 tours, and you can contact them on 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Email info@unitedgrouptravel.com, and they've got a website which is unitedgrouptravel.com. There's no strangers on their tours, just people you haven't met yet. Big thanks to them for their sponsorship. Big thanks as well to Media Arts, and they supply all the video technology. If you want to become a member and get a cup, a pen, a membership card, and a scarf, then get your smartphone and put it over this QR code. It will take you straight to the membership pack. It's a £25 one-off fee. You can also go to NUFC Matters website and search membership pack to book today. If you want to help the channel, then subscribe to it by hitting the subscribe button. Hit the thumb up under the video to like the video, and click share to share to your other social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. Don't forget, we help the food bank on this channel. If you want to do so virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. The Alan Shearer raffle is back on. 150 tickets, £1 a ticket. Win a limited edition signed Alan Shearer ball. Enter today at nufcmatters.com. Okay, it's that time of the evening. He asked George, SJP Dave says, ask George, does he have much memorabilia from his playing days? And what's his favourite if he does?
Yeah, I have a pair of socks locked away somewhere from the 61 series, the ones that were white with black and white striped tops. Hated to wear them because they had a ridge in the middle where they met. And still in the loft, there's still a pair of those because I just like the style of that particular strip, and that's a one that I've definitely got. The other thing I've got, of course, is me registration forms where I sign for the club and all that sort of thing, and they're in a file in the garage in the cabinet. You know, they're all precious, and all bits of newspaper cuttings. Well, you've seen some of the newspaper cuttings, Steve. They're precious as well, but if you're talking about actually from Newcastle United, there's an old pair of socks somewhere that I treasure.
Okay, Barry Hogan, good evening. He says, other than the Toon, which club would George like to have played for? Easy,
Arsenal. Arsenal was apart from Newcastle United, when I was a kid, there was only one other team, and that was Arsenal. I don't know what it was, but the magic of the Arsenal, and you know, the Marble Hall of Highbury when you walk into the dressing rooms and all that, and some of the great players that played there. I think if they'd offered us a trial at Arsenal, I would have walked there barefoot.
Okay. Gary Milligan says, a question about George, or Sir George as he calls you. If he could change anything about them lot doing the road, what would it be? I think he means Sunderland.
Well, he might. I think I'd lock the Seagulls up for a start, but never mind. Change them. This is a bit of football. I'm going to romance now. This is a bit of football that I get upset about because I'm old enough to remember not just going to the match at Sunderland with my dad, but we used to go on a bloody Sunderland bus from Jarrah. We used to walk through the tunnel and get on the bus with all the Mackhams and go to the match and stand amongst them. And it was good, lovely football banter. Some of the stuff I see now is thuggery, absolute thuggery. So if I want to change something, it's the mindset that says because you don't support the same team, you've got to kick hell out of them. You haven't. You can both enjoy it if you use your brain. And I had period as well when I was helping Sunderland Shields Building Society doing promotions. They supported Sunderland, so I used to get lots of invites to Roker Park, and when he used to go with us, and sometimes we used to cause ructions in the executive suite. They had a player of the match thing in the suite, and you put the name of the player you wanted to win player of the match, and his Nibs won, and he picked the player from the opposition. He picked the player from the side they were playing, and you should have seen the looks in the dressing room. And I thought, well, that's the last tickets I'll get. But no, they took it all in good part. And that's the thing. They took it all in good part. So maybe that's an old-fashioned idea, but the notion you've got to kick hell out of each other, that's what I would change.
JB says if he could change something about Sunderland, he'd move the North Sea 4 miles west. He's thought about that, hasn't he? He's thought about that. Do you enjoy the international break?
No. It's a dead thing for football for me. Once the season's going, I want to keep the season going, keep your momentum and all that sort of thing. The last thing I'd say about the thing about Sunderland is that my father, Neil's grandfather, he always used to say that the only mistake they didn't make that they made was they didn't put it in Australia.
Botany Bay. Last one from the Mags guys. He says, ask George, what's the best gift you've received from Neil and the best gift you've given to Neil?
Wow. Well, I'm wearing the best one that he's given us. There's my gold watch that my son gave us. How many years ago, son? I can't remember. That's I regard that as one of the best gifts I've had off my son, apart from my granddaughter, of course. She's kind of special as well. And what was the other one? And what have I given?
The best gift you've given to him?
Well, you'd have to ask him that one. That's
first season ticket.
Probably, yeah.
First season ticket.
Yeah. And Ian Tune Trader, as always, is fishing for something. He says he wonders if you missed him on the fans forum last night. He says he was away with his missus for the 5th anniversary and he wants you to wish them all the best.
Well, of course, absolutely. Happy anniversary. I had 58 of them, which I loved with my Marjorie. We were together from 16 years of age until we were both nearly 82. But only 50 odd of those years were married. Some of the ones where we were courting used to cause outrage in Howden, where we lived, because 2 teenagers from Howden going on holiday together on their own on the continent in those days. Those were the days if you went to pictures twice with a lass in 1 week, you had to marry her. Where me and Margie were trotting around bloody Europe. No, happy anniversary and many more of them. And I hope you get the pleasure and the enjoyment out of your marriage that I did and the rewards that I did as well.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, that's us, George, for this week. Okay, these international breaks do bring up questions like this. George, give us an answer to this one. If all of the Newcastle squad are Newcastle fit, what is your starting lineup and formation going into the next game?
Into the next game, it would be the one that we started in the very first game this year. I like that formation, and I thought it did excellently against Manchester City. Slightly critical that I didn't think they went at them hard enough, but after that, Manchester City only one team held Manchester City to 1-0 twice in one season. And stopped Haaland scoring. Didn't score against us last year. Didn't score against us. No, that first team, that first squad, would be the squad I'd pick.
Kevin, would you go for the same team?
No. I would, to make 2 changes, I would play Lewis Hall left back, and then I would put Anthony Gordon on the right side of the front 3, and with Harvey Barnes on the left side.
Right. Okay, Mitch.
I'd certainly bring Hall in at left full back. I think I'd mix it up in the middle. I think I'd bring Anderson in for Joe Linton, and I think I would mix it up top with Gordon on the right and Barnes on the left.
Okay, Al-Walid?
I would go for, to make sense, 4-2-3-1. But I would like really to see, and for me, maybe try 4-4-2, put Isaac and Gordon on the attack, and just have one winger like Almiron, and the other 3 should be like Bruno Tonali and Anderson. We don't need to put 2 winger. They feel separate and away from the midline, because the midline is doing very hard. I think they have more than they have many instruction by Eddie Howe. So I think this is the what caused this recent results.
Okay, Stu, what's your thoughts on this?
Exactly the same as Kev's. It's the team I said I'd play at the start of the season once everyone was fit. Well, I didn't say that thing, so I hadn't signed Hall at the time. But the front 3 of Barnes, Isaac and Gordon with the midfield that started, and exactly what Kev. That's it. That's the team I would play.
Okay, we have got a few other questions coming in from people in the chat. If you've got a question, we've got about 25 minutes left. Do any of the panel support Scottish teams? Says Rob. This is Rock and Rob. He says, I'm a Hearts and Newcastle United supporter. We'll double it up with Gary's question. He says, do anybody remember the Newcastle, Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Hibs bobble hats? And did you used to wear one? So, Stu, we'll start with you. Have you got a Scottish team and did you ever wear a bobble hat?
Yeah, same as Rob's. My Scottish team is Hearts. My dad, my older brother, the dad are still season ticket holders, living in Newcastle. They get the train for every game. When I was back home a few weeks back, I was at the Newcastle game on Saturday. I went to the Hearts Kilmarnock, both 0-0 Sunday. And back when they're in the finals, etc., because I don't get much opportunity in Newcastle to do so. And I already put in the chat earlier to answer everybody's question. Of course, I had a Hearts bobble hat. Thankfully, I didn't see many Newcastle bobble hats. I didn't think I'd seen any, actually. But Hearts was the team that we dad supported. And when we were younger, used to take us up to the games. You know, so of course, there's an affinity there, but Newcastle was my team, but Scottish team, it's Hearts.
Okay, I will lead. Have you got a second team? Have you got a Scottish team?
Well, يعني always يعني back here of Rangers and Celtic, but no favorite one really.
Okay, simple answer to that one. A bit unfair on you being in Saudi asking you that particular question. But Mitch, did you wear a bobble hat and have you got a Scottish team?
I didn't wear a half and half bobble hat, but I very much do remember them. Scottish team, well, as my dad would say, would confirm, we always had family connections in Aberdeen. And so if there was a team to look out for, it was always Aberdeen. And we actually went to a couple of Aberdeen games and all there with family because their season used to start early. So you'd catch sometimes a couple of Aberdeen games if you were up there at the right time before the end of the summer and before our season kicked off. It's sometimes been to a couple of games to Pittodrie before we kicked the ball in anger. So if there's one I look out for, it's Aberdeen, but I wouldn't say I support them as such. But I will look out for their scores.
Yeah. Okay. Kevin, Scottish teams?
Rangers through family connection. My great-grandfather was a Glaswegian, so he supported them and a lot of family friends who are Rangers fans, so we still keep in contact kind of today from afar. Similar to Mitch, I'm not a big full-fledged fan, but I just keep an eye out for their scores because I know if they get beat, they're going to be pissed off on that Saturday night or Sunday. So, but I'm probably too young to remember the old bobble hats and stuff like that, so I'll pass it on to me. George?
Yeah, well, Aberdeen's right. Aberdeen, yeah, because of family. I mean, we still have family that live there, and in fact, he's just come back from Malaysia. Haven't lived in Malaysia for about 15 years. He's back again now. He's always had an Aberdeen season ticket, even when he lived out in Malaysia. So, yeah. See, when I was a kid, I used to go to Aberdeen nearly every summer for my 6 weeks holidays. So the last 4 weeks of that was in Aberdeen, and Scotland played the Queer League Cup, where they mixed all the teams from every division, and they put 4 in sections. So you go to Pittodrie, and I used to watch Brecon City and Montrose and people like that, teams you would never ever see otherwise. So Neil's right, and it'd give you 2 or 3, sometimes more weeks before our season started. So yeah, Aberdeen. The bobble hats, yes, I remember them, but not very fondly. I don't like the half and half scarves or hats or anything else. You wear your heart on the sleeve. That's your team, and that's what you wear. The other half, cut it off and out in the bloody river.
Exactly. The Mags Gaz says CGI images are going to be displayed at this event with regards to the stack, including internal and external images, giving fans and local residents and members of the public a close-up look at designs for the Strawberry Place site. So thanks for that, mate. Yeah, something I didn't see today, so thanks for updating us on that. Tom Dixon as well points out that Newcastle have appointed another member of backroom staff on the commercial side. Dan Ginger is in as the club's new director of brand marketing and digital media, background in tennis, I believe. So interesting to see Newcastle making another acquisition. And Sefton Mag says, rest in peace, Joe Fagan. That was living all right. God bless Joe Fagan. Those of you who were big fans of Our Feeders and Pet will know that he was the man who made the opening song and the closing song, but he was a lot more talented at that. So rest in peace to Joe Fagan. George Bainbridge says, question for the panel. The fact that the Glazers are staying, does that indicate a new move on broadcasting rights? Prem Flicks he's got as a question mark. I think I'm going to start with you, Mitch, on this one, because, you know, we've spoken about this on the Amigos for a while and on the Professionals with Stu about the potential non-sale of Manchester United and that it was all just a ruse by the owners. What's the latest turn of events suggest to you?
Well, they're now saying that they want to hold out for 10 billion, which is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. My understanding of how things were working from a Qatari perspective was that Sheikh Jassim was indeed a kite flying exercise to see how far they'd get. And the further they got, the more they realised that they had to suddenly put their money where their mouth was. And that the real person behind the bid was exceptionally upset that they'd negotiated the 6 billion and wasn't happy with the price of 6 billion. And that's why the brakes got pumped there. The Ratcliffe bid was always intended as a partial buyout, not as a full buyout. So whether that kite flying exercise has produced interest of investment only and partial investment from preferable sources, so they retain more control and more of the profit, don't know. Quite unusual for Rain Group even to come out and be publicly critical and say that they believed now they were trying to sell the unsellable. So they've left a situation where just about everybody has egg on their face. And yet, even though the share price has dropped in the last couple of days, if you look at the net gains over the period of time of the so-called sale, Man United shares have actually increased significantly. So the value that they retain in the club is suddenly more. Funny that. But it was always, I believe, a kite flying exercise on their part. That the whole Sheikh Jassim bid was a way for Qatar to test the water, to see how far they'd get, where they would go with it, when would the difficult questions get asked, would the difficult questions get asked, and if they were, what were they, and what stages of the game did they come into? And they suddenly found themselves flapping because, oh shit, we might actually end up buying this. Because I don't think that was ever the intention. The whole concept of the 9-2 Foundation, which again, just in the very simple research I did out here, the first time it was mentioned was around about Valentine's Day, and that was after the first round of bids was supposedly closed. You know, you could just see how much of it was almost made up as they went along. And it struggled to have any credibility or validity when you couldn't say, well, okay, what office is it based in? Who do I call? Where do I go? Can I have a word with the receptionist? Can I go in and ask for a cup of coffee with someone at the foundation? Because it was just made up. And then suddenly they had to make things a little bit more concrete. And I think that was always the idea. It was never to actually purchase. And now that you get this situation where it turns out the Glazers now state they really want 10 billion. Well, you know what? Good luck with you, because you're never going to get it. But are you just sitting? No, nobody's going to buy it, and you've got what you wanted to achieve out the process and along the way. Taking me jaded and biased eyes out of it. A terrible way to treat a football club of any type, let alone one that is a institution in Europe, let alone in England. And a warning to everybody about careful what you wish for in terms of ownership. It's quite amusing to see Man United fans scrambling again, telling how bad the Glazers were when they spent hundreds of millions in a time when we were starved of any investment and were told to shut up and enjoy it. So I don't feel, I do feel a degree of schadenfreude about all of that, and now you get on with it, because you've had investment, you've had more investment, you spent £70 million on a striker, and you seem to have somehow managed to find the most objectionable individual to put in front of your first team, and I even include Jurgen Klopp in that batch of individuals who he's less palatable than. And I think the Glazers have shown they're all about business, and I think they've made a pretty penny.
£600 million, Stu, wiped off Man United shares today.
Yeah, but as Mitch said, I think it was 550 that got wiped off, but the net gain was, I think, 300 million. 1.5 billion. Sorry. So they're well in credit with it. But I use this simply when we were talking about transfers. You need a willing seller and a willing buyer, and I genuinely don't think they were a willing seller. They were testing the water. They threw a fishing rod into the lake to see if they got a bait. And then with that, they're not stupid people. They are very smart business people. As much as they're not accepted within the football fraternity, they know how to make money. And even today, it was released that Man United's net spend over the last decade on players was 1.1 billion. It was the biggest in the world. So they have backed the managers. But when you're going to nibble, a lot of it happens. It happened with Chelsea. It happened with us to a lesser extent, where people were throwing the hats in the ring that weren't really serious. But all of a sudden, this Sheikh Jassim come from nowhere, and he was bidding 5 times his personal wealth. It just didn't add up, So it was quite clear where the money was coming from, and that before it got the serious nitty gritty, and they started getting investigated. We used to joke about it on a weekly basis. This will be the final bid, or the final bid now. Then it's the final bid. And I think they were just bidding to show that they have the money, that it's great publicity. We've got this sort of money to buy a football club. But again, the Qataris wouldn't spend more than what they seen as good value. That's the way I interpret it from this part of the world. Yes, it's a great PR exercise, the World Cup wars, etc., etc. But they wouldn't, if this guy, Sheikh Jassim, was funding it by himself, which he clearly wasn't. When you're buying a business, you buy it to make money. And that's we're never going to do without over 6 billion. Now, take into consideration the Glazers put off their own money 700 million into it. That was their own money. Everything else has been leveraged debts, banks, bank loans, etc., etc. So if they sold it for 7 billion, they made what? Is that 10 times their money? Mm-hmm. You can't say they're bad at business. But they can ask for 10 billion. We're going to all ask to be Rihanna tomorrow, but it's not going to happen. But you have to then take it. What they've done is they've increased their worth, their own financial net worth. They've also hinted that the club may well be for sale in the future. So if there is a serious investor coming along and says, right, I'll tell you what, by asking for 70 billion, they're not going to get that. And this is why I think they were letting the bidding process carry on, because it was at 4. Then it went to 4.5, then 5, then 5.3, then 5.5, then 6. So they can always use that as a yardstick to say, you want to buy this club, you've got to give us at least over 6 billion. And by taking half a billion off the shares, it's negligible to them. I know it's stupid talking about a crazy amount of money like that, but as Mitch said, if you look at the price of the shares prior to Valentine's Day and the price of the shares They've made plenty of money. So,
Yep.
will it this year? That's not me, by the way.
What is that? Whose phone's that?
That's mine.
Oh,
Switch it off.
He's guilty again. I'm going to put you on. I'm putting you on mute.
No, it's not mine. No.
Oh, it's not yours. I stand corrected. Then you admitted it was you. It's definitely got to be yours, George, because I've unmuted you again, and it's that noise again. I'm gonna mute him. There we go.
Yeah,
The noise disappears when you mute him. It is. It's George. He's having a
just doing his impression.
He is.
Wasn't me, but take it anyway.
It was like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That
was a little hectic.
I've
been told that the words that the Qatari minister, who eventually ended up taking proper control of the bid, was horrified at a $6 billion valuation.
Yeah.
That's the word I was told, horrified at $6 billion.
And wouldn't support it.
No.
Because they needed to spend money on the training ground, on the stadium repairs. The squad itself, irrespective of how much money they're throwing at it, is in drastic need. And if you look at what's happened now, they had to let David De Gea go. He was on reputedly $375,000 a week. Sancho is meant to be on over $300,000 a week. No one can buy these players. No, well, not many clubs can say, okay, we'll take it. And there's a hefty transfer fee, and then we're going to pay their wages. Sancho is a player that I think would blossom at Newcastle, but is he going to go from 350 to 100 grand a week just to get out of Man United? I wouldn't have thought so.
Al-Walid, what do you make of this situation?
Newcastle are true in football. Remember that.
Al-Walid, what do you make of this?
I remember it was 7 billion price. I don't know how it's jumped to 10 billion. Jimmy Mackay, our friend who supports Manchester United, we always have show before Newcastle and Manchester games. I have him in my show many times last season because the Carabao final, and it's like it was 4 times against Manchester United. And we always brought this takeover, and he says he always have the same answer, and he seemed that he was really his opinion was right. He said that Glazer doesn't want to sell. They just do this for the fans, just to keep them down. Okay, they didn't pay what being asked for. So that was a Jimmy Mackay opinion, and I think it's right. Glazer doesn't want to sell.
Okay, Kevin.
Don't really. Again, I just know from what's been said on here, essentially, and don't really get too much involved in other clubs.
Yeah.
Stuff, but just going into the Premflix idea. I know over here in the MLS we now have Apple TV and the MLS, which you have to purchase for a nice little fee of $10 a month or whatever the subscription fee is. But every game kicks off at the same time at 7:30 on a Saturday night or a Sunday, whatever time zone you're in. You have to. It's all now being heavily regulated through the MLS. And one particular player playing it into Miami is getting quite a large sum of money from that deal. So you could see that potentially occurring with the Premflix thing and all the TV rights and the broadcasting rights, because we only have NBC Sports over here that allow us to watch every game, which again, some of it's a subscription based, some of it's not. It's through like your local TV channel or whatever, or a dodgy box. But at the same time, if I want to watch Atlanta United, I have to pay $10.99 a month to sit and watch on Apple TV, which is a centralized studio. Then they'll just break off to every game. So I wouldn't be surprised with obviously the American influence that we have, and plus NFL, the MLB extra what we have over here, the NFL Sunday ticket that Mitch has talked about multiple times. Mm-hmm. That's something that be very aware of that could be coming into play within the next couple of seasons, because I think the Premier League will jump all over that if somebody like Amazon or Apple or another big provider will get involved within the Premier League to make some more money for them.
Yeah, it's all about the money. George, your thoughts on the Manchester United farce?
It's obscene. It's the bit of football that really sticks in my craw. It's a vehicle. They've turned Manchester United in their own very personal ATM, the means of filling their pockets, and the Manchester United fans are paying for it, basically, and that's what irks me. It's great to have investment, great to have people involved, but I'd hate to see us going down that road, but I can't see it going down that road. They are there to make money, basically. And the football's at the side. It's a nice way of getting a seat in the front row and everything, and a seat in the box at the cup final and all that sort of thing. But as regards thinking about the real side of football, the fans and everything else, they couldn't give a damn. As long as every time the shares change, the Glazers make money and take the money as well. So, it's the bit of this football that I find obscene. Bowley's not far behind them as well at Chelsea. And the worry is that the bigger the American influence, because it's getting very big now, how many more clubs will go down that way?
Okay, great show. Considering we've got nothing Newcastle United related to talk about this week, all very quiet at St James's Park. But next week, of course, we will be back and looking ahead to the game against Brentford. But enjoy your weekend, George. Enjoy your weekend, Kevin.
Thank you.
I will lead Mitch and Stu. I will be back 10 o'clock in the morning with Supermac and Gibbo. We are pre-recording the Amigos this week because I'm away this weekend again. So we are pre-recording the Amigos on Thursday. So it will go live on Friday night around about 6 o'clock. So I look forward to catching you all in the morning, those of you who can make it. If not, we will see you all again for a live show again next Tuesday. Plenty of pre-recorded stuff, though. Premier League show on Saturday. We've got another Those Were the Days with George. And I've also got an interview with a guy called Craig Colquhoun, who you will recognise as somebody who's done a lot of glass sculptures of Newcastle United players. Just interviewed him today. It was a fascinating interview. And then we'll have another episode of the Toon quiz, which is starting to come to its climax. Still gotta do Stu yet, so I'm looking forward to doing that. And for those of you who sent the kids back to school, I'm sure this is the way you did it. Bless the little cotton socks. It's been emotional. Thanks very much for watching. Take care, guys. See you soon.
Good night, everyone.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody. Lovely to see you.